Well, hello everyone. It is repair time again. I think most of you probably know Bill, old 64 goat. He sent an Alinco handheld in, and haven't even opened it up yet, but I'm a little bit worried. As you can see, this package looked like it was crushed, and that always worries me. So I'm going to go ahead and open this thing up and see if it's in one piece and not two, so, and hope there's no damage done to the radio, but we'll just have to see how it looks. You never know what your courier is going to do to any package you send in. Just anywhere from a handheld to a big old unreplaceable boat anchor, can always get damaged in shipping. And here we are. We have a Alinco DJ 195. This is a VHF FM transceiver, and I'm not sure if it was damaged or this was already like that, but I've noticed that the antenna is broke. The rubber on the antenna still works fine, it's just that the rubber's broke on it. I don't know if that was like that. I went back and looked at Bill's video when he was messing with this, and I really couldn't tell. But also on the back side of the radio, if you look right here, you can see this side here is pressed out a little bit, and when I look at it, I can see this crack right here. I couldn't tell on Bill's video if it was already like this or if this was done in shipping. I don't know. We'll just have to take it apart and see what it is, see if we can straighten this back out and fix the original problem. Anyway, the original problem is that, and we've all done it, I know I've done it. I had I can't remember what brand it is. It's around here somewhere. It's a 220 handheld with one of these big battery packs on it, and I left the batteries in it and completely destroyed the whole radio. There was no fixing it. And same thing happened with Bill. He had left these alkaline batteries in it, and it corroded up, and he cleaned it up a little bit, and anyway, put it together, couldn't get it to come on, kept messing with it. It would finally come on, but when you hit the PTT, the display would go blank, would not transmit. So although he's cleaned up the battery pack and the contacts here are a little bent out of shape, so we're going to have to see if we straighten those out and put it together. Like I say, couldn't get it to transmit. So we're going to work on doing that. Now, one of the things that worries me about any time you use alkaline batteries and and they start corroding and leaking is that it puts off a gas. And there's enough holes here that in this little plastic cover, that those gaskets can also seep inside the radio and cause issues inside and cause different things to corrode. So that's what we're going to be looking for. And then we're going to tear the battery apart and see what we can do to make sure that the battery pack is performing like it's supposed to. But to power this thing, this is going to be kind of a dual video. We'll be using this new power supply I got. Now, he told me that I was the first one that he sent this to, and I'm going to be honest with you, I just haven't had time to do a review. Mike at Mike's Radio Shop, he did a review on it not too long ago. Kevin has done a review on it too, and they cover some real good stuff. There's a few other things I want to talk about on this power supply. I've been using it now for almost a month, and it works great. It's worked real good for, it's 0 to 30 volts, 5 amp. But it works good for working on projects. If you're using pick kicks or Atmel programmers and you got little boards you're trying to power up, or you need a voltage, this constant current, this little thing will do it. Another good thing, it's real good for if you're working on a circuit that has a short in it. Disconnect the mains power from it and connect this to the shorted rail, you know, using the DC, and use it to track down shorted components. It works great. I really like it. But this is the Pevono PS305H. It is the 4 digits, and good working little supply. So we'll take a look at this, but we'll be using it right here to work on Bill's radio, and then we'll tear this apart and look at it, and I'll talk about a few little things that needs to be addressed in it. And you know, for the money, can't complain. But we'll get to that shortly. First of all, let's get a look at this Alinco DJ195 and see if we can't get this thing up and running. And the very first thing that we're going to do, we're not going to worry about the battery pack or the antenna at this moment. We are more concerned about the inside of the radio to see if any corrosion got into it, and look at this area right here and make sure there's nothing in here got broken shipping. Like I say, I can't confirm if this was already like this or USPS had a football game and this was the main attraction. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. First thing we do is go ahead and get the knob off the top of it. We'll pull out this rubber membrane. Don't have to take the ring off at this moment. We'll go ahead and pop this rubber off. To get in here, no tools necessary. You just take a small screwdriver, come here to the back. Let's see, I believe it's on the sides. There's 2 little clips on each side of these radios. Pop one side up. And we'll pop the other side up. And we should be able to get in here and raise it right up. Sneak it right out of the case. Lay it over. I'm looking here at the circuit board, see if there's any damage. Luckily I don't see anything here that was like it was broken or cracked. I'll probably put it under the microscope and get a good look at it just to make sure. It's really hard to tell, you know, just by looking at this. We'll go ahead and get these speaker wires removed so we don't snatch those off. There we go. Now what we want to do is go ahead and remove the PCB from the heatsink here on the back, and to do that we'll have to desolder the antenna connector and the ground. We'll have to take this nut off the channel selector and then take out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screws. We're able to get this off, so I'll go ahead and do that off cam. Okay, the nuts off the channel selector switch. Got all the screws out, all but this one, and I wanted to show you this right here. If you're taking this apart, so you don't, if you never took one of these apart before, so you'll know, this screw right here has a spacer that's in between the heatsink and the PCB. When you take this apart, do not lose that spacer. Already got everything unsoldered. Should be able to pull this screw out, and this one will be the longest screw. And now we should be able to snake this board right out. And if you look right here, there's that little spacer, and it's under this copper retaining plate for the antenna ground. It's just a little metal spacer. Well, you make sure you don't lose that. Alright, I've looked over the board real good. I see no crack in the board. You still see there is a crack here. Like I say, I'm going to have to ask Bill if this was like this or if this did get damaged during shipping. But we'll see if we can't repair this so that it's not that noticeable. We can put a little heat to it and put it back in place, and then put some good old 401 Loctite in there and seal that back up. We'll see what we can do with that. Shouldn't be much of a problem. But I'm not seeing any problems with damage from shipping. But I am seeing some things that might make what I was thinking earlier. This is the side that was facing the heat sink, which, you know, where the battery pack goes on. And I do see some discoloration here, but we're gonna have to look at that and see if that was causing any of the problems. But you got your positive battery post here, and there's a little rubber gasket you can pull off. So we want to look down behind that too. So here you can see our pin here. Right behind that wire where it goes to the circuit board. We'll need to look at that real good and make sure that there's no corrosion in there. Okay guys, we got it under the microscope here, and I had a little problem with my light ring. So I have got to go ahead and order me a decent adjustable LED light ring for this microscope. This ring here just isn't doing what I want it to do. Make sure our focus is right. But if you look here, you can see this that white down here. This is the power pin that sticks out the other side, goes through the back of the radio and makes contact to the battery. That is a little bit in question to me. The soldering doesn't look that good, and it looks like there's a crack right around the top of it. And you know, you can take a circuit and it'll show voltage. In this case it should show 9 volts, and it'll show 9 volts, but a crack in anything that's got corrosion in it can drop the amperage. So, and that's probably why when it keys the microphone or hits the PTT, it shuts down. So it's probably not making good contact. We also see a little bit of that white stuff up here too, and this is the only place that I'm seeing it in. And we got to be very careful while working in this area, because right here we have a electrolytic microphone, so we don't want to damage that. I'm going to get some Q-tips and some 99% isopropyl alcohol and go ahead and clean this up. You see that little spot, not right here with this round, that's where the trace is removed, but if you look right at the corner of this LCD display holder, you can see some black right there on the that copper. It almost looks like something's trying to eat that copper off. A little bit of something's on there. Get this back focused in. And what we're going to do is go ahead and solder up that connector just to be sure. Some of that solder off. What's on there? Look at that. Nice clean joint. Okay, shouldn't be no more problems with that joint right there. So, ooh, come on, camera. Got that good and cleaned up, all the flux back off of it. Resoldered. I'll go ahead and get it mounted back in the heat sink, and we'll give it a little test and see what it does. Okay, the radio is ready to go back into the plastic case. I went ahead and took some hot air and heated this side and got this back in a nice straight rail like it's supposed to be, and I put a little adhesive inside, so maybe there won't be no problems there. Looks pretty good. Oh, but you can still see the crack outside. There's no way to really hide that, but you know, it's fixed. It's back together. It's good and straight. Shouldn't be no issues with it other than some cosmetic problems here on the side. I'll go ahead and get the speaker wire soldered back in. Get this back in its case, and we'll check it out using the power supply, and then we'll have a look at the battery pack. Okay, I got the battery pack took apart, and you notice underneath the metal clips there's still lots of gunk under there. See all that blue? That is corrosion of them old leaky batteries that's underneath the bottom of them. So what I'm going to do is probably put these in some salt vinegar solution and let them do their magic on it to get me clean this metal back up, get all this old junk out, and then we'll take this piece apart, pour these contacts out, and see can we reform those contacts, get this thing back to the way it looked when it came from the factory. Won't be too hard, just a little bit of tedious work, you know, and hoping that none of these disintegrate. Well, they in not really bad looking shape, but you never know when you start removing corrosion from the inside of these things. You know, you just don't know what's going to happen. Okay, I got this little pad poured off. That was the pad that was hiding those contacts there. So we can go ahead and get them out. And you can see there's some corrosion in there. Even you can see that blue corrosion on the back of this little pad. We'll have to get all that cleaned up and get that re-glued back in place. But first thing I do is remove these and clean them up and reform these connectors here like they're supposed to be, so they'll make contact with the radio. That won't be a hard job at all. Very simple to fix that. I'm going to go ahead and put the metal in the acid removing solution and see how they come out. Okay, I got the first one off, and all you do is just remove the solder from this end and pop it right up, and then work this right off, no problems. And you can see underneath of it, see all the blue battery corrosion. I'll go ahead and get the other one off and get all this stuff cleaned up, and we'll put it back together and check it out. Okay guys, I got power applied to the DJ195 using the Pevono power supply. Now, one of the things I was telling you about, I want to talk to you about a few things about these supply, is when you first turn it on, whatever you got it, the voltage set to, this thing will actually overshoot. Right now I got it set to roughly 9 volts, 9.02. The controls are a little bit touchy, but not too bad. You can get it there if you play with it for a few minutes. But like I said, well, it's set for 9 volts. When you flip this power switch on, turn it off, and you flip it on, if you're monitoring it on the oscilloscope, you will see that this thing will actually go to about 10.6 volts. That's 1.6 volts higher than what you got the display set for. There's no feature to turn the output off and on, which would have been nice to have. You know, if you could have been here on the volts, had a button to push, you know, one of these two controls in to turn the output off and on. This doesn't have that. Now, for something like this handy talkie, you know, 10.6 volts is not going to hurt it. But if you're building a project and you got some logic chips, you know, some TTL 5 volt stuff going on, you could damage your chips from overvolts. So that's one thing you really need to be careful when you're using a cheaper supply like that. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with supply. It's going to do that. It's just the way it's designed. You know, this is not lab grade. This is a hobbyist power supply, and you know, you're going to see little quirks like that. Like I say, it would be nice to have it so you can turn it off and on. Now, one thing you could do is break the hot line inside, add you a switch to it where you can set the voltage and then power it up. You know, the voltage is already there. It's not going to ramp up and overshoot from what you got it set to. I mean, you could add it to the back. You could actually take one of these out, find you a potentiometer with a push button switch, and change it out, you know, and put it back in, and fix it that way, you know, so you could just turn it off and on. That way your voltage is set, then you turn the outputs on. So no big deal, but you know, just be careful if you do order one of these. But anyway, since that's out of the way, let's I've got the radio connected up, got our cable feeding our IFR Super S, and got the frequency set for 145.0, and I went ahead and switched it over to high power. That way we can look at it and see if the radio is transmitting. Before, the display would go blank when you try to key it up, you know. So display, key it up, we're showing power out, we got a red light on. Let's look at our IFR. Now, someone emailed me a while back, and I was chatting back and forth with him about the IFR, and he was having a problem with his front keypad here. Something won't work right in the keypad, and the last email I saw, he was asking me did I know where to get any of those buttons for the keypads. And the reason why I'm saying this is that, you know, 2,000 to 3,000 emails a week, it's hard for me to keep up with it. It's just crazy. But I have not found a source that has those. Best thing I can tell you to do is call KG Electronics. If you'll Google KG Electronics, he works on IFRs. He probably can hook you up to some of those switches, or tell you what can be used to replace them. Or you can send it in to him, he could fix it. But anyway, we got everything up. We'll take the radio and we'll key it up and we'll have a look at it. And we have power out. You can see our signal over on the spectrum analyzer. Let me set this down to 1 kilohertz, and our watt meter is showing about 1 watt. So no problems there. We'll change this over to deviation. Test 1 2, test 1 2, and we got a good 5 kcs of deviation there. Test 1 2, no problems at all. So the radio is transmitting fine. Nothing wrong with that. Let's go ahead and set it to generate. Will be a little noise. Now that's with my attenuator set at its lowest setting, and the squelch is on. And I think Bill said he won't hear nothing on receive, and that was the reason for that. Is the volume and the squelch is a little bit funky on this thing. To set the volume, hit volume and then turn the control up here. Same thing with squelch. Hit squelch, turn the control. So I got the squelch set at 1. That's the lowest setting before it unsquelches. And yeah, it's receiving perfect. It's probably receiving better than most VHF radios I have here in the shop. Like I say, the IFR is set all the way on its lowest scale, which is below 0.1 microvolts, and somewhere around 130, mine is 135 dBm, so yeah, it's receiving fine, no problems at all. So we'll go ahead and get the battery pack put together and test it out with the battery pack. So you can see, this is when problems come in. This one connector, nice, good and clean, but the wire that solders back onto the adapter, I don't know if y'all can see that, I've got it stripped back, and even cutting into the wire is black. So what happens is this corrosion has wicked right on up this wire, so I'm going to have to cut this whole wire off, resolder on a new piece, because it could be breaking down some way inside too. But yeah, that is black. So there's your good look at it under the microscope, and you can see that the lead right here is completely black. So like I said, that contaminants has just wicked its way right on up this wire, and you'll never properly solder that back on. And then later on down the road, what can happen, I've seen this before, it can come up here and start actually eating the wire up until a break comes and no longer makes connection. So yeah, we'll go ahead and put some new wiring in this battery pack. Okay guys, the Alinco DJ195 is now off life support and should be breathing on its own. We'll hit the power button. It comes on. Zoom here on the display. Hit the transmit button. This will tell the tail if everything is working right. And we have transmit. Go here to the IFR. Looks good. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Test 1 2. Test. Very good. No more problem. Now Bill, I looked at this antenna here, and what it is, this rubber is completely dry rotted. I do not have any VHF antennas in stock that have the BNC connector on them. Everything I got is SMA. But if you'll run down to the hardware store and pick you up a piece of 3/4 heat shrink tubing, cut your piece, slide it right on over here down to this and heat it up, it's good to go. Nothing's going to hurt it. It'll work just as good as it did when it's working on the thing. It just keeps moisture out of that spring coil in there. So yeah, that is good to go. No problems at all. Alinco DJ195, all ready to go back and start talking on the airways. Now, one thing that Bill told me was to let him know how much this was going to cost, and he didn't want any freebies. But Bill, I hate to tell you this, the bill's already been paid. No, not by me. Someone else kindly jumped up and made a donation to get your radio fixed. So ain't nothing I can do about that. It was anonymous, and it's already paid for. I'll get this back in the box and get it shipped back to you this coming week, so you can sit back and enjoy it a little bit. So before we get done here, I did want to go ahead and talk about this supply a little bit. This Pevono, it's the PS305H. And I'm going to tell you guys, I've used this thing for a while already, and it does a super job. Probably the first thing to go ahead and do is get rid of these little beads that come with it. They're a little bit stiff, and the banana jacks are not the best. They do have the hole in it where you can plug something else into it, you know, no problems at all, but you know, the wire's a little stiff, especially working on little small circuits that you're trying to feed voltage with. And I can go ahead and tell you, these right here, if you ain't careful, they're going to pull right off, because they're not soldered. They're just kind of stuck in there and crimped, and that's not making for a very good connection. Even though these are working fine, if I use them a little bit, they're going to fail. So just go ahead and strip this down, build just a new one, put just a good quality banana jacks on them, and you'll be good to go. Another thing, and Mike did point this out here at the front where your AC wires go to it, you don't have to do the top one, but the bottom, put some heat shrink on it, because directly under that is a screw, and if something happened where this was to flex or the switch was to break, you know, it's a plastic switch holder, it could break, it'll go down and AC is going to hit this case. So go ahead and put some heat shrink on them, and it doesn't hurt to go ahead and do the back where the mains plug, you know, go through and goes in. Other than that, you know, it's a great little supply. Now, the only thing that I didn't like is that, and this is about the build quality, they do have a good proper ground in it. The ground wire goes to a stud, and it's got a crimped connector on it, and it's bolted directly to the chassis, so that's a big plus. Something I didn't like that I wished they would have done is, you know, the AC where it comes in, there's no isolation slots cut in here, and you know, they've got the traces, pretty good healthy traces, you know, but and they're pretty far apart, but it would have been nice to see some isolation slots in here that would have, you know, ensured you that you won't going to have a problem with any creepage or anything. If something happens and something was to short, it may become a problem then, but other than that, you know, not bad at all. But yeah, some isolation slots would have been a little bit better to see there. As far as the rest of the board, good build quality, good soldering on it, good healthy traces here on your output, no problems at all with that. They even use some pretty healthy wire on the inside, you know, to go down to your jacks, so not bad. I really like it. It's not a bad little supply at all. You do have some adjustments up here on the front panel to calibrate the voltage and current, and the board is already silk screened for the cheaper potentiometers. They use some multi-turn resistors in here, so that helps a lot, you know, to adjust it better. But you know, it's not a bad supply. Wouldn't hurt to change out these filter capacitors here. You can see the board is already silk screened for 2 more. You don't have to put 2 more in it. You could, but I will go ahead and pull these out and replace them with some good quality caps that'll help on the noise just a little bit, because you know, this is switch mode. It's gonna make a little noise, but yeah, good heat sinks. You know, your transistors here or should have pretty adequate cooling. The fan is right here in line with them, so you know, it's going to pour the air right across it, and your vents on your case are up towards the front, so the air is going to come in from both sides, go across the back of the board, go across the heat sink, out the fan. You'll notice that the fan doesn't come on all the time. Only when the constant current kicks in, then you'll hear your fan come on. But yeah, good little supply. I highly recommend it if you're a hobbyist. Like I say, it's not a lab quality supply. If you need a lab quality supply, it's what you need to go ahead and get, you know. But just for hobby tinkering, building little prototype boards, you need several different voltages that you can go to. This supply here should do it for you. Like I say, have no problems at all running the that Alinco handheld off of it. This will put up 5 amps. The Alinco showed it pulling like 1.01 amps in transmit. So, you know, good little supply. I'm happy with it. I'm thinking about, you know, doing that modification to mine, changing out one of these potentiometers and putting a push button in it to turn the outputs off and on. So when you go ahead and power it up, it's done, you know, satisfied the capacitors, and then just push the button to feed the outputs. So there you go, guys. I'll leave the link down below to this power supply. It comes in digital 3 or digital 4. I got the digital 4. I'll also leave the links to Mike's review and Kevin's review on it. You know, I have to apologize to Pevono for not go ahead and getting a video done on this, but I kind of wanted to get videos of actually using it instead of doing just a tear down, you know, wham bam, this is what it is. I wanted to get to know the supply a little bit, see how it works. I can tell you it works super, no problems. But like I say, click the show more tab. I have the links to all that down below. Bill, your radio will be on the way. I went ahead and aligned the frequency, checked the deviation, everything looks good. Good to go. Anyway, until the next video, we'll see you then. Bye now.